It's also reasonable to expect that as higher energy costs take up a larger percentage of disposable income, people's spending would scale back, which is negative for stocks. But this is really only the tip of the iceberg. For the rest of the world, including China, Japan, India, and South Korea, they are directly reliant on the oil imported through this narrow passageway. So if this shuts down, they would feel the most immediate and most intense effects, effectively just destroying the global economy. But again, all of this is just barely scratching the surface. If the strait were closed, it could very quickly and easily turn into a global catastrophe of military escalation, as practically every country does whatever they can to get the strait back open by whatever means necessary. In fact, it's just reported that there are close to 50 large oil tankers scrambling to leave the Strait of Hormuz right now, with the expectation that the strait could be blockaded in the coming days. Even President Trump said that any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight, which refers to the recent operations to disable any of Iran's potential experiments. I'm being very gentle with my words here, if you couldn't tell, just so the video doesn't get restricted in any means, so bear with me on some of this. Anyway, in terms of whether or not the Strait of Hormuz could actually be shut down, and the realistic impacts this would have on the global economy, here's what you came for. Because believe it or not, this is not the first time that we've gotten close to a shutdown. Although before we go into that, this is a situation that is changing so quickly that I pretty much had to drop everything that I was doing to get this video out as soon as possible. Usually when this happens, I just go the entire day without eating because I don't want to take the time to go to the grocery store and cook myself food. That is why I've turned to today's sponsor, Cook Unity, to help get me through the day. Look, how about this? I'm just going to go off script here and speak from the heart, because they sent me some meals to try out over a year ago, and ever since then, I've just been getting them delivered on a regular basis on weeks where I know I'm going to be really busy. Without exaggeration, these are just meals that I look forward to getting, and they're so good that I've recommended them to friends and family. Seriously, they taste amazing. Everything tastes like I'm eating food prepared by a private chef without paying the cost of a private chef. And when I broke down the cost of every single meal, it was cheaper than what I was getting at Chipotle with way higher quality, which says a lot because I actually really like Chipotle. And they're pretty affordable, but this is even better. Plus, getting them delivered is super easy. Just create an account, browse from hundreds of meals each week, and since they're fully cooked, I could go from refrigerator to meal in under 3 minutes with no mess, no cleanup, and no wasted food. If you want some of my favorite recommendations, I absolutely loved the roasted salmon and lobster sauce by Chef Andre Mendez, mustard crusted salmon by Luda Lefebvre, and crispy tilapia over Greek salad by Chef Ruben Garcia. So if you want to try this out for yourself, just go to cookunity.com/gram50 or click the link in the description and use the code GRAM50 to get 50% off of your first order. Real talk, with 50% off, you could get these meals for as low as $5.55 each, which is mind-blowing for the quality of food you're getting. And also, I have no idea how they're actually profiting from this, so make sure to try it out and use that code before it eventually expires, because I don't know how long they could run this for. So again, the link is down below in the description with the code GRAM50. Enjoy, thank you so much, and now let's get back to the video. Alright, so in terms of what could happen next, let's talk about the biggest topic on everybody's mind, and that would be closing the Strait of Hormuz. Up until this point, thankfully, there has not been an actual closure, because the impact would be pretty far-reaching, and Iran would pretty much isolate themselves from the rest of the world by cutting off their access to natural resources. But that doesn't mean there haven't been some very close calls in the past, like one, the tanker battle of the 1980s. During a territorial dispute between Iran and Iraq, both sides attacked commercial tankers in the Gulf with the expectation of cutting off the other's oil supply. But even though there was an ongoing battle, and some trade was temporarily disrupted, the strait was never closed, because doing so would do more damage than necessary and hurt both sides equally, so the markets eventually just recovered. After that, though, we have the 2012 sanctions threat. This escalated when the United States blamed Iran for a series of tanker attacks in the Gulf, which were carrying petroleum products from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE. As you would assume, Iran once again threatened to close off the strait as a punishment for disrupting their economy, which resulted in the price of oil increasing 4% due to heightened uncertainty. But wouldn't you know it, the strait was never actually closed. Essentially, the chance of Iran closing the strait has such high consequences that if they did, they would face almost immediate backlash, especially since China is one of the top recipients of all the oil coming out of the region. And since Iran and China are on good terms, having worked together for the last few decades, it's unlikely that Iran would do anything to jeopardize their largest alliance. But that also does not mean that markets will not react very negatively until it's eventually resolved. And this is what we are currently seeing. Overall, no surprise, we are seeing higher oil prices almost immediately, purely because oil flow could be disrupted and insurance prices on oil ships have increased 60% in just the last few weeks.